There are stables and then there are stables.
This building is literally a temple.
The Millford stable is one of the most impressive because it follows Greek Revival architectural precedents so well. It's not simply a timber-framed barn with a cornice tacked onto it. It's proportionally correct, it has an engaged temple front on it, and it's extremely large, well-ventilated stable.
But you have to look at that building and see the statement that it makes. It's obvious John Lawrence Manning used the construction of Millford, the way he dressed, everything to manifest his wealth. And I think the stable is another manifestation of that wealth. It speaks to the significance of thoroughbred horse racing in South Carolina prior to the Civil War.
Families like the Mannings invested small fortunes in elite racehorses.
You just can't understand how important horse racing was to the culture. It was the #1 sport in early America, right up until I'd say about the 20th century. Horses and horse racing was a centerpiece of the social life of the Mannings and of their set.
Racing represented a way to not only show off wealth, but also to make a connection to English elites, racehorsing and thoroughbred ownership, owning a state carriage that had the family's livery or insignia on it. All of those were defining features of European gentry that South Carolina's planter elite was proud to be able to replicate and keep alive here in the States.
This place would have been abuzz with activity as preparations were being made for a horse race. Getting the horses ready, making sure they were packed off and sent to where they needed to go, getting all the equipment, the saddles, and the people would have been preparing as well. It wasn't just horse races, it was balls and parties.
So we're standing in Hampton Park in downtown Charleston, which historically was Washington Racecourse, the crown jewel of over a dozen racecourses in the American South. And it came alive every February for Gala Race Week. And besides the race itself, Gala Week would have been the height of the social season and a chance to show off their greatest studs and ultimately to renew connections at all the social events that surrounded Race Week. So we have to remember it wasn't just the horse lovers. This really was the most important social event for everyone in the state.
It would have been a see and be seen sort of event in the mid-19th century, and the Mannings would have been among the people who were at the forefront of that.
The rich folks raced in one way, the poor folks raced in another way, but everybody raced or went to the races.
While families like the Mannings owned the race horses, and ultimately the sport couldn't have existed without them, it was enslaved jockeys and trainers that did most of the actual work. So it really was an important story of diversity, even if some of the main players were behind the scenes.
The care of these horses were largely left to enslaved men and boys who were responsible for their day training, exercising, and all the things the horses would have needed.
We're maintaining this structure. We've been working on the roof.
The structure is one of a kind in this condition, and we want to do everything we can to be good stewards of not just the mansion house, but also good stewards of this. This is one of the most significant buildings on the site, so we did everything we can to get the new roof put on as quickly as possible, but again, in an appropriate manner with appropriate materials.
But it's not just so that the building stands. It's so that we have a reminder of the people who lived here, the people who cared for the horses here. This is simply a mnemonic for all the things we can't forget.